Welcome back to the Prosecutors Legal Briefs. I'm your host, Alice, and I'm joined as always by my suppressed co-host, Brett.
It's true, Alice. I'm in so many ways.
You're really not.
If
You're
only
the
we
least
had
suppressed
several
person I
hours.
know.
I need a couch to lay on. It's true.
Oh, you are the least suppressed person. But you, as a prosecutor, Brett, deal with suppression motions all the time with basically every single case where there's any evidence recovered. Someone wants to suppress the evidence because guess what? If you're trying to charge someone with felon in possession and you can suppress the gun, you got no case, right?
I literally have a suppression hearing tomorrow.
There you go.
So, yeah, it happens all the time. And with varying levels of success, I mean, every now and then, I think one thing that's worth discussing just before we get into this conversation about this particular suppression motion in this particular case. So, one thing we always try to educate everybody on is avoiding sort of the sensationalism of true crime news and reporting. And you see this in a lot of the cases that we have covered. Whenever someone files a suppression motion, a Frank's motion, I mean, whatever various types of motion they're filing, it's always presented as this bombshell, this shocking event that could bring down the whole case, as if, man, the defense attorneys only file these kind of things if they're absolutely certain they're going to succeed. Whatever is the state going to do? Will there be justice in this case? I mean, just all the breathless commentary, right? And I think it is important to know exactly what Alice just said. These are incredibly common and really occur in any case where there's even arguable claims for suppression for a couple of reasons. Number one, because oftentimes it's the entire case. You either get the evidence suppressed or you lose. You're just going to plead guilty. And the second thing that I think is worth remembering, this is always an evolving area of the law. And so if you have a good argument, challenge it. That way it's preserved. Even if you lose, you go to trial, you lose the trial. Maybe by then the Supreme Court said, you know what, there's this new standard. And all of a sudden, you preserve the issue and you can bring it later. So just know that these are not uncommon. And a lot, no matter what case it is, a lot of the breathless reporting you see is way overblown.
I think that's exactly right. The fact, and we've said this in other cases, this is a very common, you should have a good faith basis to bring this argument, but these are so common, especially like Brett said, if there's any sort of a seizure of any type of evidence. And in the case we're about to talk about with Luigi Mangione, that's going to be the case. When my example just now was the felon in possession. If you find the gun, you find the gun after a traffic stop. Almost 100%. That fact pattern right there, there's going to probably be a suppression motion because there is a search incident to that traffic stop that recovered the firearm that led to the federal charge. And therefore, that is going to be the whole case. And like Brett said, it is not cut and dry. We know that we have these, Fourth Amendment rights. We have these Fifth Amendment rights. But if you've read the Constitution, it is not a science equation, right? It is not a math equation. It does not say you are allowed to be stopped for this many minutes and you are able to be searched under these 25 circumstances, and that's it. That's not what it is. We live in a common law system. These are also fact dependent cases, and that's the key. Every single criminal case and every single suppression motion is going to be incredibly fact dependent. That it's not going to be okay because that case came out this way, that was suppressed, that means our case will. You can make analogies, but these are going to be incredibly fact bound. And we'll go through the facts of this particular case and what is going into the suppression motion at issue here.
Yeah, let's do it. So, as some of you know, as you record this, we've just had the first in a series of hearings in the Mangione case. The prosecution yesterday, they presented a lot of surveillance video, some body cam, 911 call. It was really the first time we saw a lot of the evidence that they're going to have in a formal way. And this is all run up to a motion to suppress that the defense has filed. And it is a motion that essentially seeks to suppress pre-Miranda statements made by Mangione when he was arrested at a McDonald's, evidence seized from his backpack that he had with him at that time, which includes a gun, journal, manifesto, electronics, really the whole case. I mean, there's a reason they're filing a motion to suppress. Someone in the chat asked if there's a downside. No, there's not. There's really the only downside to filing a motion to suppress is in a typical case when you're eventually going to have to come to the table and ask the prosecutor to be lenient and make a good deal with you. If you make them do a lot of extra work in a frivolous suppression hearing, they may say, no, your acceptance of responsibility has been very low in this case, and so we're not giving you a good deal. So that's in a typical case. A suppression hearing maybe has a downside. Case like this, nothing they do has a downside. They're going to do everything they can. The man is facing either life without parole or the death penalty. So they're going to be throwing everything at the wall, which is not to say this is not a legitimate motion to suppress. I mean, this is not a frivolous motion. These, as we said, are real things, Miranda rights, statements that are made. And this is a gray area in the law because there is a moment where you have to be Mirandized. But as Alice said, it's not a science equation. It's not 100% certain. And there's always some conversation beforehand. And we're going to talk about that. And really, I will say this. If the defense loses this motion, really, he should plead guilty. I don't know that he will. I don't know that it's in his, character or makeup, given his sort of political whatever's he's trying to accomplish here. Maybe he wants to go to trial, but this really, in a lot of ways, will be the case. So that's one reason it's worth following. And this is a Fifth and Fourth Amendment claim. And they are presenting these arguments, the Miranda argument and the evidentiary argument, as their reason for suppression. Now, one thing I want to clarify right off the bat before we really get into this, I've already seen people misstate the issue and say things like, since they searched his backpack before they Mirandized him, the evidence can be thrown out. No, it has nothing to do with it. The Miranda is all about statements. The search of the backpack is a completely separate issue under a separate clause of the Constitution, separate amendment of the Constitution. So just know that as we go through this, these are two attacks on two separate pieces of evidence. And even if the defense is successful on one, doesn't mean they'll be successful on the other. And even if they're successful to some extent, doesn't mean everything gets thrown out.
Yeah, the conflating of those two different arguments is classic, I don't think intentional misreporting, but misunderstanding of what your constitutional rights are. So let's break down those two different challenges here. Let's talk about the Miranda statements. So this stems from, of course, the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution against self-incrimination, right? When you say, or when you hear on TV, someone says, I plead the Fifth, what they're actually saying is I plead my constitutional rights under the Fifth Amendment not to self-incriminate. So you don't have to testify against yourself. The Miranda rights that you now hear, Miranda rights, if you remember them from TV, you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to, anything that you say can and will be used against you. You have a right to attorney. You will be an appointed attorney if you cannot afford attorney. You guys know all these things. That actually does not appear in the Fifth Amendment. It appears nowhere in the Constitution. In fact, this is what we meant when we said this is a developing area of law. The Miranda rights came from a case before the Supreme Court, Miranda versus Arizona, in 1966, where the Supreme Court is looking at the Fifth Amendment and says the Fifth Amendment against the right to protect your right against self-incrimination says that you have to be made aware of those rights before you give these types of statements. And that's where the Miranda warnings come from.
And I would just note, if you want to learn more, early Legal Briefs episode on Miranda versus Arizona. So go check it out.
And okay, so this is where the gray area starts. We know that there are these Miranda warnings, right? Now it just like flows off the tongue for even cartoons have it, right? We know what that means. But when do you need to be Mirandized? There is not a bright line. There is not a number of seconds that happens because these are all fact dependent. And so the defense is arguing that Mangione was questioned without Miranda warnings. Now, if they're right about that, then, and he was supposed to be given his Miranda warnings and wasn't, then there is an argument that everything he says when he had not been properly noticed of his constitutional rights cannot be used against him. But if the prosecution succeeds and says, no, Miranda warnings were not warranted at that point because the police don't have to just walk up to anyone on the side of the street. Let's say they wanted to see, they saw a child walk off. They don't need to Mirandize every witness along the way before they're like, did you see a child? That's not required because, first of all, that would completely impede the police from being able to do their jobs. And the Miranda rights are supposed to be invoked essentially when you're like in custody and you are being asked and what you say can be used against you. So,
Yeah, I mean, think of it this way. How many of you have been pulled over by the police?
oh,
Did they give you their Miranda
definitely.
warnings?
No.
No, because you're not in custody where that would be something that they would have to do in order to use anything that you say in that circumstance against you, which is interesting because you're not free to go. You know, you were pulled over. You're under their control.
You're
If you drive off, that's a
detained,
crime.
right?
But you still haven't crossed that threshold where they have to give you your Miranda warnings.
And so you can see how there is a gray area here because the facts of this case is that Luigi was sitting at what, a McDonald's? Is that
McDonald's.
right? He was at a McDonald's, which is a place that he's allowed to sit, right? My example of the bystander standing on the side of the road and the police walk by saying, "Have you seen a kid?" They're just out and about doing their own thing. He's sitting at a McDonald's and the police start talking to him. He doesn't have to be Mirandized the second the police see him. That's not when he needs to be Mirandized. But at some point in their conversation, there probably is a point in which he should be Mirandized. But again, there's not that bright line rule. So, what the prosecution and the defense are arguing about is when that Miranda warning had to have been given, when he was in custody. So, if you're sitting at a McDonald's and the police walk in, can you leave? Of course you can, right? I mean, I don't do it all the time, but like if a bunch of police come into like a McDonald's I'm in, I'm about to like get out of Dodge because I don't know what's happening over there, right? So of course you can leave. But let's say you are sitting in the back of a cop car because they're like, let me talk to you for a second, and it's a little loud out here. Why don't let's step out of the McDonald's. Why don't you step in the back of my car and we'll talk for a little bit. I'm gonna close the door. It locks from the inside, like it locks, so you can't get out because it's a cop car. I'm gonna sit in the front, and there's the divider, and we're just gonna talk. We're just gonna have a little conversation. Is that custody? Are you free to leave? I think there's a pretty good argument that you can't leave. You're in the back of a cop car. You can't open the door because it's locked and you're being talked to through like a gate. I would argue that you would, in fact, need your Miranda rights at that point. So that's those are the extremes that I'm giving you there.
Another one. What if you're in handcuffs? Does that mean you have to have your Miranda rights read to you? Because the answer is it depends. Just because you're in handcuffs doesn't mean that you're under arrest for purposes of Miranda. If you guys don't watch On Patrol Live, it's worth watching just because you can pick up on a lot of this stuff just watching an episode of that. Because a lot of times the police will get someone out of the car, they'll put handcuffs on them, and they'll say, "You're not under arrest. I'm just detaining you. This is just for officer safety. There's only one of me, and there's 5 of you, so I'm going to go ahead and put handcuffs on you for officer safety." Most likely, no need to read that person Miranda. Anything they say can and will be used against them, even though they don't know it, right? Until he says, you say, "Yeah, man, I got a pound of marijuana in the back. You're right." At that point, he's going to arrest you. Then he's going to read you your Miranda rights. So this is a much more nuanced area of the law than people realize. That's the first thing. Then there's the Fourth Amendment, which honestly is a more interesting question because frankly, the Miranda stuff they're attacking it's not frivolous, but it's almost frivolous. I mean, it's
by the way, here's why it's like kind of low bar. First of all, they don't need his statements. It's all they have him on security surveillance, right? They don't even need his words, but they know it's him by face. Of course, they could be wrong, but they're pretty sure of it. And basically, the first words out of his mouth, they know to be false. And so the second you tell a lie and there's evasion, there's false identity, there's more than probable cause there for continuing that conversation. That's why it's not frivolous, but that's an easy argument for the prosecution to win because it's such a clear case that he was already lying. The first words out of his mouth, "I'm homeless." They knew he was not homeless. I mean, he was in like a nice blazer and a button down. So even if they didn't know who he was, they had probable cause to believe that he was lying, even if they didn't know this was Luigi Mangione based on the way he looked, based on officer experience of someone who typically is homeless or not homeless or saying they're homeless in order to evade, detection. That's why that argument, I just wanted to break it down, why it's an easy argument for the prosecution to succeed on.
And let's just be clear, they don't need any cause at all
No.
to walk up to him and talk to him. None. They don't, they can ask him questions. He can answer them or not answer them. A cop can walk up to you for no reason, be like, hey, man, what's your name? You look familiar. That's fine. He doesn't need any reason to do that, whether you look familiar or not. Now, if you are detained, if the police have probable cause to hold you and they ask you your name, you actually have to tell them your name. That's one of the things that's like a lot of people don't realize. And if you don't tell them your name, you're going to get arrested because you just can't do that. And that's one of the things that we've sort of decided on is sort of an exception to all this. Like you have to identify yourself. So just, you're going to see this. If you pay attention to this hearing, you watch this is going to be a pretty low bar to clear for the prosecution. The search is much more interesting. And there's a lot of case law on this. And this is the Fourth Amendment, unlawful search and seizure. So the defense is basically saying, look, this is a warrantless search of his backpack. Now, typically speaking, warrantless searches of anything are presumptively unconstitutional and invalid. That's the starting position, is always that. And the government has to prove that there's an exception to the warrant requirement that allows you to do that search, right? If you have a warrant, you can search anything. If you don't, you have to show a reason why. And the defense is saying, look, all of those exceptions that you could have, search incident to arrest, an exigency situation, an inventory search before you tow a car, like these are all things that are an exception. The automobile exception, if you have probable cause to believe there's evidence of a crime in an automobile because it's mobile, you can search it without a search warrant. These are all sort of exceptions. They're saying, look, none of these applied. And since none of these applied, they should have gotten a search warrant before they searched the backpack. Even if they had probable cause to arrest him, they couldn't search the backpack. They didn't get a warrant. Therefore, everything in the backpack should be excluded as fruit of the poisonous tree. And this is going to be the general argument that the defense is going to make, and it's going to be incumbent on the prosecution to show, no, there was an exception, a valid exception that allows us to look in that backpack when we did.
So what's the prosecution going to say? Of course, with a suppression motion, the leading motion is going to be brought by the defense. They're going to bring the arguments. They say these are, pre-Miranda statements that should be thrown out, and this is an illegal search. So, fruit of the poisonous tree. They bring the arguments. The prosecution has to respond. So, the prosecution is going to say that this search was justified because of probable cause for the arrest. Now, he had shot a man point blank in the back of the head, caught on surveillance, and was on the run. So there are all these I think there's search incident to an arrest. I think there's exigency. He was clearly evading, right? When they asked him who he was, he said he was homeless, or they asked him if he'd been in New York where the murder happened. He's like, no, not at all. Things that they knew to be false. So they already knew he's a dangerous person. He literally just walked up to a man and shot him in the back of the head, right? And he still has the weapon, presumably. And in fact, he did. So there is danger to the public as well. They're going to say there's absolutely probable cause in order to justify this arrest and the search.
So let's talk a bit. Okay.
Huh? Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, and it's a strong argument because of all the things I just said.
It is a strong argument. And we are going to talk about some of the Supreme Court cases that will be raised in this that sort of lay this out. So we will start with a case called United States versus Robinson. It's from 1973 when a lot of this was developing, 60s and 70s. You got Miranda, you got these kind of cases coming through, right to privacy, right to search, warrants, everything. So in this case, basically you had someone who was arrested, and after the arrest, the police were sort of patting them down and sort of a Terry type thing. We've talked about Terry stops before. And while they're doing it, find a cigarette pack. And they take the cigarette pack and they open it up and look inside it. And there, inside the cigarette pack is some heroin. Right. So they find heroin. And so the argument was, look, you had the right to arrest me. You might even have had the right to seize the cigarette pack. But if you wanted to search it, if you wanted to look what was inside of my property, you needed a warrant. And this is what the Supreme Court said about that. Since it is the fact of custodial arrest which gives rise to the authority to search, it is of no moment that Jinks, who I believe is the police officer, did not indicate any subjective fear of the respondent or that he did not himself suspect that the respondent was armed. Having in the course of a lawful search come upon the crumpled package of cigarettes, he was entitled to inspect it. And when his inspection revealed the heroin capsules, he was entitled to seize them as fruits, instrumentalities, or contraband probative of criminal conduct. So essentially, this is the search incident to arrest exception to the warrant requirement. It is a very common sense exception. The idea that when you arrest someone, the stuff that is generally on them and around them, you should be able to search as part of your arrest. And this rule, in this case, it's a cigarette pack, but it's been extended to other things, such as backpacks, if they are within the arrestee's immediate control, if they potentially pose a safety risk, such as maybe they have weapons inside of them, if they pose some sort of evidence destruction risk for some reason. Maybe there's smoke coming out of it. You want to get it open and put the fire out or whatever. The officers may search them incident to that arrest. And essentially, one of the arguments that's going to be made here is Mangione is arrested. The backpack is right there. This is a search incident to arrest. No big deal. Happens every day.
So, seems like that's pretty clear, right? Well, this rule is not unlimited. In United States versus Chadwick, a 1977 Supreme Court case, places a constitutional limit on Robinson. So once the police have removed a container from an arrestee's immediate control and they have exclusive possession of it, that search incident to an arrest rationale no longer applies. And then at that point, a warrant is required.
And this is an example of bad facts make bad law, because Robinson made tons of sense. But then the police started to kind of abuse it. They basically would be like, and in this case, it was a Foot Locker. They were like, well, we arrested the guy and took him to jail, and there's a Foot Locker that belongs to him. Well, since we arrested him, we can search this, right? I mean, that's the rule. And they searched the Foot Locker. And then the Supreme Court was like, no, that's not what we meant. We didn't mean you could just search anything belonging to the person because you happen to arrest them. There are going to be circumstances in which you need a warrant. The problem is, in real life situations, what exactly do these two rules mean when they're together? What does it mean to be in control, of something, or able to reach something? Is it we have Mangione, but we hadn't put the cuffs on him yet, so we can search the backpack. Oh shoot, the cuffs are on him. Stop, don't search it. Right? It's this, that feels weird. And frankly, the Supreme Court and a lot of courts have sort of grappled with that and been like, well, you never know. He could get away. He could get into it somehow, but maybe if he's in cuffs in the back of the car, then you couldn't search it, because could he really get away? And you have all of this sort of stuff and these individual fact patterns that make what seemed like a clear rule very muddy.
And that exact kind of fact pattern came before the Supreme Court in Arizona versus Gant. In Gant, the police arrested Rodney Gant for driving with a suspended license. So he was handcuffed and he was locked in the back of that patrol car. Clearly, he wasn't able to access his vehicle, right? It's not in his custody. He can't reach over and grab a gun from there now. So the officers searched his car and they found cocaine in a jacket in the back seat. The state argued that Belton allowed a full search of the passenger compartment of a car whenever an occupant was arrested, regardless of whether the arrestee could reach the car, which in this case, Gant couldn't. Now, the Supreme Court disagreed. The court held that a vehicle search incident to arrest is lawful only in two narrow circumstances: when the arrestee is unsecured and within reaching distance of the passenger compartment at the time of the search, or when it's reasonable to believe the vehicle contains evidence relevant to the offense of arrest.
So he had been arrested for disorderly conduct. And that was one of the problems. So they arrested him for disorderly conduct. Then they searched the whole car. Then they found drugs and guns or whatever, cocaine. And the Supreme Court were like, well, so we're going to have these narrow exceptions, but they're actually really broad, especially the second one.
The second one is It could be relevant.
And so what people have fought over ever since Arizona v. Gantt came down, I think in 2004, is does that second part apply to any search or only the search of a vehicle? Because the Supreme Court's always treated vehicles a little differently because it's a mobile thing, it's
It's like your mobile castle. It's kind of like
exactly.
your home.
So it's like, we want to have a little bit different standard for cars. And in some ways, the standard is more restrictive. In some ways, it's much less restrictive for police, just depending on exactly what happened. And so there's been that sort of argument. I mean, take this case. If you apply the reasoning of Arizona v. Gantt to Mangione, you absolutely could search the backpack because it absolutely was reasonable to believe that that backpack would contain evidence relevant to the offense of arrest. So whether it's narrowed to vehicles or not is a big deal. Most courts have kind of said it is. That exception is. Some courts haven't. So we're going to have to see what happens. But honestly, a lot of this is just sort of interesting legal arguments, but probably at the end of the day, not going to matter because there's another argument that trumps basically all of this. Alice mentioned exigency earlier. Exigency means you have an overriding need to go ahead and do a search before you can get a search warrant. And the biggest reason for exigency is the safety of the public and the safety of officers. So you have a circumstance where you have this backpack next to a person who has been accused of committing a premeditated, high profile assassination. One might say an act of terrorism. I mean, I think it may or may not qualify for that. We're going to have to see. You had someone who carried out this assassination with a ghost gun, wearing a mask. They carried a backpack. You have this backpack. They acted with precision. They obviously were trying to send a message. And because of that, an officer could reasonably fear a number of things were in that backpack: a secondary weapon, explosives. I mean, once again, this is a targeted attack. Not hard to imagine there might be something like explosives, some sort of remote triggering device, chemical agents, some sort of other kind of thing, more, 3D printed stuff, anything that could potentially be dangerous. And the thing about this is, and it's just funny to watch people on X and Twitter and Facebook debate about this, right? Because in fact, one of the officers said, I didn't know if the guy had a bomb. I wanted to make sure. And somebody's like, well, she's not a explosives expert. Doesn't matter, right? This is an objective standard. The question is, would a reasonable officer in the situation be able to believe this thing might contain something dangerous? If that's true, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter the subjective belief, frankly. Doesn't matter what the officer was thinking. It's just an objective question. Could a backpack sitting next to a person in this circumstance pose a danger to the community? If the answer is yes, they can search it. And that is one that is going to be that is a very broad exception and is very difficult to overcome.
So the courts have consistently upheld the immediate searches of containers when officers can articulate a crime-specific safety concern. By the way, this articulation is something we work with our law enforcement officers a lot. Good law enforcement officers know how to articulate it. It's not making something up, but you can't just be like, I don't know,
I had a feeling.
we hear that all the time. I got a spidey sense. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, so like, tell me what that spidey sense means. Well, that spidey sense. I'm like, okay, I truly believe you have a spidey sense, but you need to articulate to me what gave you the spidey sense. It was the fact that he kept twitching and playing with his hands while he was talking to you because you've seen thousands of people, you've taken interrogation classes, and you know that that particular jittery motion is because they want to grab something in order to hurt you, something like that. You see that a lot when people are playing with their hands, like they know that their gun is within reaching distance, and before they reach for it, they kind of twitch a little bit. Great, articulate that, and then you have the crime-specific safety concern. Now, some of these examples that Brett's already said that fall into this, articulation of those safety concerns: terrorism, mass shootings, narcotics trafficking, gang related hits, and crimes involving explosives. You can see why those would fall into that safety concern, of course, for officer safety, but as well as for the public. So in such cases, the courts emphasize, quote, officers need not take chances with their lives. This is really important because I think a lot of the public have lost sight of the fact that these are real life and death situations that officers have to deal with in the moment. Hindsight 2020 a lot of the times. And also easy for us to judge, even I'm literally saying us as prosecutors as we're watching a body cam. It's very different when you're sitting right there trying to decide, okay, like I know this man. I saw him on surveillance shoot a man in the back of the head. He's lying to me right now. He acted with immense precision and was able to get away despite being in the middle of a crowded, urban area. He's gotten this far away already. He's basically evaded detection up until this point, and it was by accident that someone at the McDonald's recognized him, right? So you think, okay, this is a highly trained or at least highly sophisticated, dangerous individual who is not your run of the mill fell upon a gun, accidentally fired it in the right direction, and it killed someone. This is someone who is capable of even more damage if they are not stopped.
And look,
What do you
these
do?
officers, they receive a lot of training. They receive training on crimes like this. They would know it's not uncommon for people who commit crimes like this to have things like explosives. I mean, I'm thinking we did a training recently on the New Year's Day, New Year's Eve night, morning, I don't know how to describe it, attack in New Orleans, which I think y'all all remember. And the guy, ISIS person in the truck on Bourbon Street, ran a bunch of people down, shot a bunch of people, was eventually killed. Well, his plan was not to run people down and shoot them. That was just the start. That was supposed to drive them down the street to where he had left several coolers full of bombs, homemade explosives. And basically, he was killed. A police officer shot him before he could detonate those weapons. They found the detonator right next to it. I mean, he was ready to do it. He got shot before he could do it. Right. I mean, that's sort of an example of that. You saw this, I mean, going all the way back to Columbine. I mean, their plan was to set off explosives, but they weren't very good at making explosives. So it's just perfectly believable that there would have been explosives in the bag. It just is. I mean, there's really no way to argue with it. And even, you might say, well, it wasn't smart to open the bag then because maybe it would be triggered to blow up. Doesn't matter. Once again, might not have been smart. That's not the point. The question is there legitimate danger? And if there is, they can search it. If they could have called in bomb techs and put it in a bomb tech thing and x-ray it to see what was in it. I mean, is there, let's think about that example for a second. Is there anyone who really thinks they couldn't have done that? That they couldn't have called in the bomb techs and be like, hey, we have Luigi, just killed somebody. He's got a bag here. We're afraid there's a bomb in it. Come x-ray it. They come and x-ray it and they see a gun when they x-ray it. They're like, no bombs, but there's a gun. Does anybody really think that would be a violation of his privacy or an illegal search? No, of course it wouldn't. Well, that means they can also just open the bag. There's no difference between the two. You can read Kylo if you want to hear about an example of that from the Supreme Court. So, essentially, this is an interesting intellectual exercise that's going to go on in court. He's going to lose. If he wins, he will lose on appeal. There's no way that this evidence will be suppressed. This search was perfectly reasonable. It probably was perfectly reasonable for multiple reasons. They're probably going to be able to establish exigency, public safety, officer safety, a search incident to arrest. There's just a lot of different ways they're going to be able to get at this. And so at the end of the day, like I said, great opportunity for us to discuss this. But what you're seeing, some of the talk about this is a really good way to drive ratings. If you're, a 24-hour news service that needs to talk about something, and you're seeing a lot of that and a lot of this sort of like heated, over the top rhetoric about the sky is falling type stuff. But this is standard stuff and should be a pretty standard ruling.
So sorry to be cold water prosecutors yet again, but this way, as you're kind of following what's going on for the next couple of days, that there's nothing wrong with bringing this motion. In fact, I think it's right that they have
Absolutely.
to challenge this. Like, right, this is one of the arguments they need to bring, but they will lose on the merits.
And look, I mean, as occasionally write in briefs, like I sometimes say, you know, maybe one day this will be the law, and maybe this is the case that'll make it the law. But the law, as it stands now, they lose.
Right.
And maybe he takes it all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says, you know what? We've been way too lax on this whole search incident to arrest thing and officer safety thing. They're taking advantage of it just like they did after our 1974 case, and we're going to limit it. Maybe they'll do that here. Unlikely.
And here's a little tip. The Supreme Court might think that this would be a situation of bad facts make bad law because they would not find it on the facts of this case.
That's true. That's a good point.
So even if they think that you would not use this case to be the vehicle in which to challenge how broad the exception is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We got to be realists here. Well, I hope you've learned something here, but and this will not be the last time. I think this is in the news. And what Brett said at the beginning is very right. This is the first time we're seeing the body cam. A lot of the information is coming out for this hearing. This is going to be like a mini trial because this is where you put on a lot of the case. Obviously, it's not going into the actual murder, but this will be the meat of it, and it will be pretty much outcome determinative of what happens in this case. And that's why it's such a big deal, because likely he will lose this motion to suppress, and likely he will plead guilty, and likely there will not be a trial. In a regular type of case, this is obviously a very little p politically motivated case. Like he did this for a reason. It wasn't just he had beef with the CEO. He wanted to make like a political statement about healthcare. So maybe, but if this were any other type of criminal case, that would be the order of events. And so there likely wouldn't be a trial in which to televise. And that's why there's so much attention on this particular point of the case.
And look, if this goes to trial, we'll keep following this case. I mean, this is one that's popular. We'll sort of walk you through any of the legal wrangling that happens going forward.
It will be a fascinating case. If this went to trial, it'd be like the Redonda Vault case, except that Redonda Vault arguably she didn't do anything. She didn't mean to do anything, whereas this was very premeditated. But there are kind of the larger existential questions.
There's going to be a jury nullification.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So.
Which I don't understand. I mean, I get in arguments with you guys about this sometimes. I don't understand. Like, whatever your political positions are, however strongly you feel about them, you don't get to walk up behind somebody and shoot them in the back of the head. You just don't get to do that. I mean, for me, this is an easy one, and I don't know why it's always like, yeah, but healthcare. Like, no. We never get to the yeah, but healthcare. You just don't get to do that. You don't get to shoot people in the back of the head. So, like, for me, this one's easy, but obviously, I don't know that I'm in the minority, but there's a very vocal minority who feels that this case is bigger than Luigi Mangione, and it doesn't hurt that he's a good-looking guy, which, frankly, if you're making decisions about what you think is right or wrong on whether or not someone's a good-looking person, maybe reevaluate your life. Yeah. Just saying. But, that's where we are. So, well, we finished this in record time, Alice.
I think that actually shows you how straightforward the argument is and how strong of a position the prosecution has in this case. But we should answer some questions because people have come to expect that our 25-minute podcast is an hour long.
It's true. Okay, so let's see. Okay, this is an interesting question. I'm interested to say it's deep.
Oh no,
but it's pretty interesting.
Fried.
I mean, I know what my answer is, but
all right,
okay,
hit me with it.
This is from Giztogram, and she wants to know, what would a just world look like for you?
Wow. A just world for Brett is one in which we can all escape from jail.
No.
You can go in so many directions. I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Well, I think, there's a lot of ways to answer this question. I mean, as you said, you could say, a just world is a perfect world, or it's almost like heaven is a just world, but a real world is never just. I think, if you wanted a definitional answer, I think you could say a just world is a world in which everyone gets what they deserve. But I will say this, I would not want to live in a just world, because if everyone got what they deserved, then
But then it
that
would be
would
a
be bad for all
merciless
of us.
world.
Exactly. And I think, there's that sort of eternal question: is mercy opposed to justice, or does it go hand in hand with it? Is a deeper understanding of justice include mercy? And how does all that work? I mean, it's a great question, right? I
So
don't think I think it's a platonic ideal. It's a world that doesn't exist and will never exist.
I agree, in this current fallen world, there's not a perfectly just world, but I'm going to say a very, I guess, predictable thing for me to say. In this fallen world where we cannot achieve perfect justice because we are flawed and a deeply broken, humanity, which is okay, in the sense that it's okay because that's the state of the world, and whatever you believe, I believe that this is not the end all be all. But a just world in this broken version of the world is law and order, is that there is consequence for actions, so that you cannot walk up to someone and shoot them in the head, no matter how just you believe that killing to be. We do not believe in assassinations like that. So, coming from a prosecutor, I don't think that's that surprising, but I would say that there are consequences for your actions. Now, when I say the consequences for your actions, it does leave a little bit of space for that mercy, because when we go into court, I don't always just argue for the top of the guidelines. It is based on those circumstances. For if there's a lot of mental illness, for example, there, I don't think that person should be out there committing yet another murder. But I also don't necessarily think spending, life in prison with absolutely no health, mental health care is going to be helpful either. And so I think that's when, the devil is in the details, but more kind of largely, if you zoom out, 20,000 foot level sort of thing, it would be that there are consequences for your actions, and that there is a set of order that we as a society has decided upon. And when you break that law and order, there are consequences to it. And it is the same for everyone, no matter who you are. So I guess you could say that the reason I'm a prosecutor is I think our judiciary system attempts at its ideal to reach justice, because it is supposed to be justice is blind in our courts. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. If you break the law treats you the same.
I love these questions because I just think these are discussions we need to have. I feel like we're sort of a society of received wisdom. Like, we do things the way we do because it's the way we do things. It's just, well, that's the way we do it. And I feel like this is probably not true. This is probably an idealized version of the past. But it certainly seems like people in the past struggled with this stuff more. They grappled with it more. They really thought about it more than we do now. So I always appreciate, these questions. It's funny. I always think of this group. I don't know if it's just in Alabama, maybe it's other places. It's called Vocal. Are you familiar with Vocal,
No.
Alice? Vocal means victims of crime and leniency.
Hmm.
And I always thought that was so fascinating. It's like, they're like a pro victims group, but it's not just the criminals. It's also like, the judges or the prosecutors or the laws that allow these people to continue to perpetrate violence on
Hmm.
others when they shouldn't have. And I always just thought that was a really interesting, name for a group. And it sort of goes to this question.
Hmm. That's a
Okay,
good
let's
question.
let's let's answer one that's less deep.
Sure.
Can we answer one that's less deep? We got time to do less
Yeah,
deep one.
like your favorite kind of meatloaf sandwich,
There you
which
go.
was a
That was a
great
good one.
question.
That was a good one. What kind of jello shot are you? Okay, let's see. All right. Okay, this person. Let's see. Uh, hmm. You've already answered this question, I think. I
Okay.
don't know if you've. I'm going to ask it.
Okay.
If you've
Okay.
already answered it, I don't know if I've answered this question yet, but I definitely know the answer. Okay.
Okay.
So this is from Unsolved Couple Pod. Hope the podcast is going great, Unsolved Couple. And they want to know, what is the worst date you've ever been on?
Here's the thing, I have multiple really bad dates, so I could tell a different story, but I'd love to hear yours.
Yeah, so, I don't know. It was so when I was in college, I went on a couple dates with this one girl. And it's so funny because like our first date was great. She was awesome, really enjoyed spending time with her. Then I go out on the second date with her, and it was the weirdest date ever. We go to this like sort of nice, like Italian place, and I had this whole thing set up, right? Like and I learned a lesson from this date too. So,
This is so
you
that's
know,
so romantic, by the way.
so people, I, I always remember everybody always just take, or at the time, I don't know if people do this anymore or not, but at the time, the everybody took their dates to movies. That's just what you did. You just took girls to movies. You went and saw a movie, right? Okay, well that I mean that's great,
No
but
one really gets to talk much.
you don't get to talk much. You're just watching the movie for 2.5 hours or whatever. I mean, you enjoy the movie, it's fine, great, whatever. And so I'm thinking, I want to do something more creative than that. So, like, we go to this. My plan is like, we're going to this nice Italian dinner, and then we go to this like cool place that's like on the side of a mountain that sort of overlooks the city, and it's like beautiful when there's sunsets. And I'm like thinking, this is gonna be great. So we start off at the Italian place, and I don't know if she's just in a bad mood or whatever, but like it was just the whole thing was weird. And at the end, I got like what was left of my meal to go and paid. And I stood up, and she just sat there, just looking at me. And I was like, is everything okay? And she didn't say anything. I'm like, are you all right? Didn't say anything. And like, I'm like, what is going on here? And finally, she stands up and she points. And I look down, and she's pointing at like the box with the food, which I had not picked up because I had forgotten that I got it. And I looked at her, and I looked at the box, and I picked up the box. And then she just like made this noise and then like walks off. And I was like, okay, that was weird. So then I like follow her out, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on there, but we'll go to the pretty place with the sunset, and maybe it'll all be great. We go to the place, and we're sitting there, and the sun setting, and it's beautiful, and she's obviously miserable. And at some point, as the sun's setting and we're sort of sitting there in silence, she goes, I wish you'd just taken me to a movie. And I was like,
Wait, what?
wow, this is
That's
what I
so,
get.
like, mean.
This is what I get for trying to be, whatever.
Nice. Like, oh,
And
I'm
Mrs. Brett
sorry.
doesn't let me live this down because we had started dating at this point. Like I was dating
You
like a lot of
you
different
went on a
people.
date with someone else after
Oh,
you were
I had like 5 girlfriends at this point, and I was dating a lot of different girls because I was trying to find
you
Mrs. Right.
deserved this then.
And she's like she's probably watching this right now, saying like, yeah,
I
I told
wish
you
you
she
would
was
have
trouble.
taken me to a movie. I'm
I
sorry,
know.
ladies. We're not like that.
And
We're
so the
not like
worst
that.
part of it was, I mean, it's not really the worst part of it, but so she was in a sorority. I was not in a fraternity because I didn't do fraternities, but she was in a sorority, and she'd invited me to go to this like party the next night. So I was her date to this party. And like after that, I never wanted to see her again, but I had to go to the party, and
Right,
she
because those
had
are
to
like
take me. They're
proms,
like,
right?
yeah,
Like,
it's
they're
like a
like
big
nice
deal.
events.
So we basically, it was the most awkward thing ever going to this party. And like once we got to the bar, I went one way, she went the other way. We never spoke to each other again. It was like,
Oh,
it was wild. It
I don't
was
know
a
why
weird
she would
situation.
act like that, especially knowing the next night she has to take you to this, like,
I know.
social, you know? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that might be on her. I don't know her, but that might be on her. Okay,
It was weird.
I'll
It's
tell
weird.
you really quick, different terrible date story. So, this was a first date. So, this was a first date, and so this guy was like, "Can I take you to a movie?"
Ah,
There you go.
there
And
you
I was
go.
like, "Sure, we can go to a movie." And he was very, like, nervous about it. I was like, "Whatever, super low key. We're going to the movies, like, no big deal, right?" And so I was I was in school, but I was home for, like, the holidays, and so he, like, drove to my house, very nice, and, like, picked me up for the date. so nice. Like, people even do this anymore. So you like, he's clearly nervous. And he's like, so it's like he already bought the tickets online, Fandango. I was like, oh, look at this. Like, we don't have to
Mm.
wait in line. Like, this is great. This is very nice of him. And so, he picks me up, and because I'm home, for the holidays, he says hi to my dad. And I'm like, okay, this is awkward because I'm like an adult. This is kind of weird that he's like saying hi to my dad. So I'm like, okay, bye. So we get in the car and we drive to the movie theater, which is, like 10 minutes away. We don't talk much because this is like a first date. It's kind of, a little awkward.
Mhm.
So we go in, and he was like, so I picked this movie because I think you're going to love it. And I was like, oh, great. I don't know that you know me that well, but
My mind's
okay.
going in so many different places, but I'm gonna see if
Oh,
it went to
man.
the right place. Okay, that's
And he's like, because we went to school together, so he knew I was like, I danced. I was in a dance company. I performed, so a lot of people knew that I danced. I did ballet. I danced professionally in different shows. So he was like, this is a movie about dance, and I was like, awesome. Like, what guy wants to go see a movie about dance, right? Like,
okay.
that's thanks. That's like really nice of you. I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. And so we sit down, and the the credits, not the credits, like it's like, um the trailers. And I actually don't know anything about this movie because it was finals season. So I'd been studying for finals. I hadn't watched TV. I didn't know anything. So I was like, oh, okay, well, look, this is great. It's a movie about dance. I loved, Step Up. I loved, Save the Last Dance. Yeah, this movie's gonna be great. So we sit down, and the trailers come on. And those of you who've watched movies before know that the trailers match usually the tone of the movie you're about to watch. So if you're going to go see a Pixar movie, it's going to be like cutesy kids trailers, right? And so the first trailer that comes on is like a real creepy, like horror movie. And I was like, "Whew, this is not my scene. I don't like horror movies. You know this. All of you know this. I don't like anything remotely scary." And I'm like, all right, maybe it's just, getting you revved up to do some dance battles. And, and then like a second trailer. It's like pretty scary crap. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. I'm also not gonna make a big deal of this because like he doesn't know how freaked out about like scary movies I am. So like don't be a weenie. Just, grin and bear it. And then the movie starts. He had taken me. And by the way, there was no one in the theater. So that may have been a sign that there was no one in the theater. This is not a popular movie, apparently. He had taken me to see the not award-winning, hyper psycho erotic sexual drama Black Swan.
Black Swan did win awards. Thank you very much.
It did win awards.
I loved Black Swan. I knew you were going to say Black Swan.
I also ended up liking Black Swan, but I had
you're
no
right.
concept
Yeah.
of what this movie was about. And it is like, for going on your first date with someone who you barely really even had a conversation with, and you're both staring straight ahead as there are a lot of like psycho erotic dramas happening in front of you,
scenes in that movie.
Is pretty intense, right?
Natalie Portman won an Oscar for that movie.
She did. Well, she did phenomenal in that movie, but I couldn't think about that because all I could think about is there are a lot of naked scenes happening, and I've barely even like held this guy's hand. And this is super awkward. And then I married him. So and I don't let him live it down that he took me to see Black Swan as our first date.
That's hilarious. Oh, wow. That was a great reveal at the end there, Alice. That was awesome.
Thank
that
you.
was fantastic.
See, not all bad dates end badly. By the way, he was mortified. He had no idea that's what the movie was about. Now, you know him, so you know how mortified he is. For what it's worth, we left there and didn't talk to each other. We did not talk to each other on the whole way home. This is like a night movie. He took me home, and then he called me the next day, and he was like, "Do you want to try a first date again?" And then he took me to the Georgia Aquarium.
There you
and
go.
And it was wonderful.
The Georgia Aquarium. That's a much better. Much better. That's awesome.
Anyways, great Great question.
Yeah,
Well,
great
you
question.
guys,
Thanks for
thank you for
asking.
hanging with us, and we'll continue to follow this case, of course. And if you don't know, you can leave a 5-star review and ask any question. You can see how widely varied these questions are, and we love them. You can reach out to us at prosecutorspod@gmail.com and on also social, yeah, and all the social medias. But until next time, I'm Alice,
And I'm Brett.
and this is the Prosecutor's Legal Briefs.
Woo! That was great.
Well.
That's a great story. Did you want to do After Dark today? You
We
mentioned it
can. Yeah,
earlier.
I'm not doing anything. All my kids are asleep. It's great. Okay, let's stop this.
Let's stop this. All right. That's hilarious.
Okay. I do not let him live it down.
I bet.
Okay.
Mangione.
Let's call this, yeah, Luigi Suppression, because there will be other Luigis.
Yes, there will. Mm-hmm. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. When did the doctor? Oh, I guess I should wait till my.
Oh yeah, here I'll start recording.
Hold on. I'm not ready yet.
I want to hear about your doctor story.
Yeah. The doctor, bless her. All right, I'm ready to start recording whenever you are.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, record. Okay, you went to the doctor. Oh, we should do the sign on. Sorry.
Hold on. Goodness gracious. It's
I'm just so excited to hear about your story.
I can barely even, think. We gotta play the music. I mean. All right.
The Captain has won my heart with this song. It's such a good song.
Seriously, The Captain. So good. All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Prosecutors After Dark. It's dark here in Prosecutors Land, and we're still here. I'm Brett.
And I'm Alice.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry, I cut you off, but that may be a feature, not a bug. Oh, sorry about that.
Right in the heart, but it's okay.
It is. It is. Your elephant-shaped heart.
My elephant-shaped heart. Roll Tide, Alice. I know you enjoyed the football game this weekend.
Look, that was some good footballing, only because Auburn, they are able. I laughed because it was so true.
Victory. I love it.
The announcer was like, Auburn finds a way to lose. And I was like, that's such a good way to put it, because it's almost as if they find a way to lose.
I mean, the thing about Auburn this year, and I do want to talk about football over here, but Auburn is, I mean, and this is not, I do not mean this as a dig at all. They are the best 5-7 team you're ever going to find. I mean,
so
they could have won any of those games.
They
could have won them all. They didn't lose a single game by more than, including like Georgia, Alabama, Vanderbilt, Missouri. I mean, these are all teams that are really good teams.
They found ways to lose. If you rolled a dice, you would win more times.
I think of all those teams, Alabama might be the only team they weren't ahead of at some point.
Right.
Like they had Georgia beat, and they had Vanderbilt beat. You know, the only game they were really terrible in was Kentucky, which got the coach fired, which is understandable because Kentucky is bad, right? But like, it is crazy. I've never seen a team. The only game they won that they shouldn't have won was Arkansas. They were behind and they got like 2 pick sixes or something. But frankly, they deserved that because they just, everything went wrong that could go wrong. Oklahoma cheated to win. Like they had, and of course the SEC referees, who were the worst, missed it when it happened. I don't know. I mean, as an Alabama fan, obviously I enjoyed it.
I wasn't upset because it was so like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
I would be almost a little mad if you won because this is just ridiculous.
But but the problem was with it from our perspective was like this team's a lot better than everybody thinks it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they're not actually a bad
They're
team, and we
not a
got to go
bad team
there.
at
And
all. They're a really
yeah,
good team. They just are so good at finding ways to lose.
yeah. Or maybe with the new coach, who's a communist, by the way. It's so funny. So and it's hilarious when I was reading the story. Like, so their new coach, Auburn's new coach, is a Russian immigrant, right? And you might think, oh, family. And he tells the story about his family fleeing from Russia. And you're thinking, oh, man, this story of like freedom. And he's like talking about how, like, yeah, when the tanks rolled into Red Square, we had to flee. And it's like, hold on, wait a second. When the tanks rolled into Red Square, those were the freedom fighters. Like, turns out, like, his family were like big in the military, like high ranking officers in the Soviet government. So when they fled Russia, they fled in much the way like
Hold
Bashir
up. When the
fled
tanks rolled in.
Syria, like, so, but whatever,
It's fine. It's
welcome to
okay.
Alabama.
I was gonna say also, can you play ball? Come on over.
Yeah, that's all that matters. I mean, let's be clear.
And that was a crazy stat, though. What did they say? Like between the two teams, 92 of the kids had played against each other in Alabama. Like
Yeah,
that's kind of amazing, though.
what you love.
That like gets you in the feels
Yeah,
because they were all like hugging
oh
afterwards.
yeah, they have known each other their whole life.
They've all grew up playing ball
The
together
fans hate each other much more than the
than the
players.
players.
And the
That is
players a lot of them, they could have gone to either
right,
place, and it was just
right.
like,
Absolutely.
which
They
school had the
played each other in high
scholarship.
school.
And
They were on the same teams. Yeah. Oh,
we used to
some of
have a
them.
player who had like a big Auburn tattoo because he'd grown up a huge Auburn fan, but he went to Alabama.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Like one of them went to our school here, graduated from there, and it's like it's just cool to be like, yeah, we know him. We watched him play, 2 years ago.
So, what are your thoughts on the playoff, Alice? Well, we're here talking about football.
Playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs,
Playoffs.
Man, I got lots of thoughts about them.
Yeah, go. Tell me about your thoughts about the playoffs.
Well, football's the greatest sport in the world.
It actually is.
It's just the greatest.
It is
sport.
terrible for people's brains. And
sacrifices
my kids
right?
will not be playing it because they're too small and their brains they're going to be too weak for it. But it is the most exciting game to watch.
And the NFL, because of how it's structured, has a pretty good way of determining a champion. You got like 32 teams, they play each other, they play a Super Bowl. That's great, right? And most sports have a pretty good way of determining a champion. But football, especially college football, is uniquely situated in a place where it's basically impossible to have a good way to figure out a champion. Because think about it, like basketball, frankly, the NCAA tournament's kind of but nevertheless, like a lot of times, you'll have sports that have series and you have to win best 2 out of 3. And like, that's a really good way to figure out who's best because fluky games don't necessarily decide series and everything else.
This is one hit wonder, man.
Yeah, you can't do that in football because of all the reasons you just said. You just can't play that much. And you have so many players, so many teams, and they're from all over the country and they play these completely different schedules and they're not standardized at all. I mean, you have playing teams like Ohio State. Ohio State, who's obviously a very good team, captain, if you're listening. OH, yeah, whatever. Very good team. They played 2 games this year. They played Texas in the first game. They were ranked. And then they played Michigan in the last game, and they were ranked. And that's it. Everybody in between there was just like cupcake central. And but that's just how their schedule fell out. They didn't have to play Oregon. They didn't have to play USC. They didn't have to play like any of the good teams in the Big Ten, and that's it's like, how does that compare? Like, how do you even know? Anyway, so we've come up with this like wackadoodle way of doing it with this new playoff with 12 teams. But the problem is we have the dumbest people in the world on the committee trying to figure this out. I mean, they are complete and utter morons. They have no idea what they're doing. And it's like, how is it possible that you have this multi-billion-dollar sports industry decided by idiots? And it's not just that they're stupid, though they are, but they're also just completely unsituated for this. Like, it's like presidents of universities.
Like, what does that have anything to do with it? There are, like, what is it? Is it 30 Rock? Yeah, 30 Rock that does like, is it? No, Kimmy Schmidt. I think it's Kimmy Schmidt that does like a hilarious play on all these commissioners who are just like rich people who know nothing about ball, and they call it like the football the football game, right? And they're the ones making all the decisions.
Yeah.
That's kind of what's happening, though.
And that's kind of what's happening. Yeah. And so, like today, we benefited from this today, but I just want to note for all you hypocrites out there are too many people out there who cannot criticize the system when it benefits them. And that's why the system never changes. And last year, Alabama got left out of the playoff for all sorts of stupid reasons. And all of y'all loved it because Alabama got left off. But now the idiots are favoring Alabama. So we moved up in the rankings
That
today,
I don't
which almost
understand.
certainly,
I really actually don't understand.
it almost certainly means we're going to make the playoff no matter what happens against Georgia. But nevertheless, the reason that, so they interview the idiot, the head idiot who runs the committee, and he's like, oh, well, you know, Alabama went down to Jordan Hare, and that's a tough place. Just ask, you know, Vanderbilt. Well, number one, Auburn didn't play Vanderbilt at Jordan Hare. Auburn played Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt.
Mhm.
So already questioning your knowledge of
The
what's
thing
going
you're
on.
ahead of.
But then basically they moved us ahead of Notre Dame. But and his reasoning was like, well, you know, they had a really gutsy 4th and 2 call. It's like, so you're deciding where
Based on one play.
Based on
one play.
one game.
That if it went terribly, what are you going to move them down?
I mean, it would still have been gutsy. Like, even if they hadn't made it. And they should be ahead of Notre Dame for the same reason. Notre Dame, you know, they've played 2 tough teams and they lost to both of them. Right? Sorry if you're a Notre Dame fan. Great. You beat USC. Whoop-de-la-di-da. I mean, like, but they should be ahead of Notre Dame, but they haven't been ahead of Notre Dame this whole time. And to move them ahead of Notre Dame for this stupid
4 and
reason,
2.
yeah, it's like the dumbest thing in the world. And it
was like kind of gutsy,
thing.
but not. It was good strategy. It wasn't like it was the fourth quarter. It was like the first quarter, second quarter. You know,
it was
like,
the fourth quarter. He's talking about the fourth quarter.
Okay.
You're talking about the earlier one. Yeah.
But that's what football is. Gutsy plays.
Well, it's just like, but it tells you that this person doesn't know anything about football. And the way you can tell that someone doesn't know about football is they talk about individual games as if that tells you something. It'll be like, they'll say things like, well, you know, Alabama had a really bad game against X and they only beat them by 7 points and X wasn't very good. And so therefore it's like, no, you have no idea what you're talking about, because football in particular is a game where you're going to have really bad games or the other team just plays better because the differences in talent aren't that much. And the fact that you managed to win those tough games actually is impressive.
So do they just make a lot of money being head idiot? Is that why?
Well, head idiot is either the president or the athletic director at Arkansas. So number one, he didn't know anything about football. Sorry, Arkansas. I mean, look at your new coach. So he doesn't know what he's talking about. But the people in charge, like, you could do this in a way that made sense. I mean, frankly, probably the best way to do it would be to like make it all retired head coaches.
Yeah, that would make total sense.
You know?
Like, truly, that would make sense.
Yeah, like that would be the way to do it. But, you know, instead you have this like weird, it's kind of like we have this is a totally different thing, but the way we pick magistrate judges in our district, I don't know if you know this, Alice. It's not just that the judges pick, which would make sense. They're like random members of the community. So for like the longest time,
I think I did know this.
There was a dude who owns a car dealership who's on the committee.
Actually, when I found this out, I remember being like, what? Yeah. This is
like,
not a democracy.
What does he know about? It should just be the judges. Like, what does he know about a magistrate judge? Exactly. But anyways, it's stuff like that. Like, why are you putting these people on it? Anyways, but that's the system we have. So that's what we're stuck with.
Well, there you go.
Anyway, that was a long rant.
Congratulations.
I guess that's what this is all about. But
but despite them not knowing anything, it's still a $1 billion industry, which is like incredible.
Well, they inherited that, you know.
But it's not going. I mean, I hope it doesn't go anywhere because I do love football. But
they're doing everything they can to screw it up. I'll say this, like whether it's NIL, or the transfer portal, or the playoff, like it's all just a mess right now. I don't know how to fix it.
You should be on. How do we get who can we get to vote for you to be on the commission?
Yeah, I think we need a commissioner of college football, and it should be Nick Saban. That's the way
I do agree with that, actually.
You know, make it Nick Saban and Urban Meyer if you want to have some diversity. you know. But anyway, this has been all me talking. I feel like you need to talk.
No,
I've talked too much.
you talk
Talked too
just
much.
enough. I think that is fantastic. I don't even know what to talk about. No one threw up on me today.
Mm.
Thanksgiving just happened.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It was great. It was well, it was long. It was a whole week. And my second child, who you guys know as Squanto, loves Thanksgiving.
Oh,
But
that's right.
unfortunately, he got sick on Wednesday. Like,
No.
okay, I'm going to describe to you the saddest, most heartwarming, sad story you'll ever hear. So he's the male Pollyanna, right? He is just everything's rainbows and puppies, but also he has an intense, he's also like gets angry a lot, but he's such a bright personality. And he comes home on Wednesday and he's like, I don't feel good. Projectile vomits everywhere. I was like, oh my
Oh God.
gosh. And he projectile vomits like another 10 times that night.
Mm.
And I was like, oh Lord, you're like
Mm.
real sick. So put him to bed. He's so sick. And he had been so excited all week to help me cook Thanksgiving. Like he was
Oh.
like, can I mash the potatoes? Can I cut the green beans? Can we get ham? Can we get two kinds and put honey on one of them? I was like, we can do whatever you want. So I bought everything. He was going to make Thanksgiving dinner with me because he literally laid out his Squanto costume and his pilgrim costume. And he said, can I start in the pilgrim costume and then can I change at lunch and then I'll change back for dinner? And I was like, you can do whatever you want. Like he had Thanksgiving planned out, right? And so he is projectile vomiting all night. And it is the saddest thing ever. Literally, like a drop of water will touch his mouth and it projectile vomits out. Like nothing could touch his lips. And so he wakes up the next morning. He is not well at all. He is just like a sack of potatoes. And so I set him up like a little pillow and a blanket next to me in the kitchen so he can watch me cook. It's so sad. So I'm cooking and he cannot move. And he's like, you're doing great, Mom.
Oh.
And so we make the whole meal, like do the whole thing, huge turkey, ham, all this food, and it's on the table. And when I think I've told you guys this before, when my kids throw up, there's a special couch that they lay on. It's a leather couch so that I can wipe it off when they
Do they put
vomit
the
on it.
toilet seat up or down?
Always up, man. Always up. And so he's laying on the throw up couch, which is the leather couch. Don't sit on it when you come home, come over to my house. And which is right next to the dining room. So he can hear us, but he can't see us.
Oh.
And so like family's over, we're all eating and he's laying on the throw up couch and he cannot move. He's like feverish, projectile vomiting. And at one point I walk over to like get something from the kitchen and he has quite literally like Alex Mack liquided to the floor. And he had his pillow his head on a pillow on the hardwood floor. And every couple minutes he would push himself with his toes 1 inch closer to the table. And it took him about 30 minutes, but he pushed himself right under my feet. And then he literally crawled up, army crawled, because he couldn't move his body, into the chair because I had still, of course, set his table with a wooden spoon. And it was there. And then he looked at the wooden spoon and he broke out into a huge smile and he said, my spoon. It was like, I literally almost started crying right there. I was like, I had thought about not setting his place because like there was no way he was gonna eat. But I was like, I gotta set out his wooden spoon. And so he just sat there and he got all of he couldn't move. So I put all the food. I was like, do you want mashed potatoes? He's like, yes. And I put all the food on his plate. And he knew he couldn't eat any of it. And so he got really close to it and he goes, it smells just like the first Thanksgiving. And you can't laugh because this is like the saddest thing in the world, right? And I was like, yeah, it does, buddy. And he goes, Squanto taught them that they needed to put space between the corn so it would grow when they put the fish in the soil. And I was like, save your breath, child. Save your breath. And then I'm not making any of this up. And like he's like feverishly red. He's like kind of hallucinating. He's like talking, but like he's not really making sense. And so after he sat there for like 5 minutes, I was like, "Do you want me to carry you back to the couch?" And he was like,
Oh.
"Yeah." So I carried him back to the throw up couch, covered him back up, and I took his plate that had not been touched and I wrapped it in saran wrap and like didn't change it and put it right into the fridge. And I brought it out for him the next day. He was too sick to eat it.
Oh.
But here's the sweetest part. I put him to bed that night and he'd been like, laying for 24 hours. And I said, "Hey, how was your day?" He goes, "It was the best Thanksgiving ever."
Oh.
Oh
That'd be
my
a lesson to all you
gosh.
complainers out
Oh
there. That's great.
no. Anyways, he's better now, but I think he had the flu. Those of you who remember, he had flu really bad the past 2 years, so bad that he lost the ability to walk.
Mm.
So I think I recognize it now. I think he had the flu again. For some reason, man, flu A just wipes him out. Nobody else
I
got
need
it
to
in
go
my
get a flu
family.
shot. I went to the doctor today and asked for a flu shot, and they're like, "We don't have any."
Isn't it like prime flu shot season?
It is. Well, you know what they said? And I don't want to interrupt you. Was there
No,
anything
I'm
else you want to say
done.
about
Like
Squanto?
there's no more sadness to add to
Did
that
people
story.
come over to your house? Because I got to say, if I
Yes.
showed up to your house and Squanto was throwing up in the on the throw up couch, I might be like, you know what? I'm just gonna
So we told everyone
go.
that he was he threw up all night, but he didn't throw up the rest of the time. That's why I think it was flu A, that it was not the stomach bug. So he didn't throw up the rest of the time. So he was on the throw up couch, but he was not throwing up. He was hugging a bowl, so it was very possible
Just in
that he
case.
would have.
Yeah, so I go to the doctor, and they're like, "Have you had your flu shot yet?" And I was like, "Actually, no." And I was hoping to get it today. And they're like, "Well, we don't have a flu shot." And then they explained that like they used to have the flu shot, but they lost a ton of money on it because apparently the Publix in town, if you go get a flu shot there, they give you a $15 gift card, so everybody goes there for it. And I
What?
was like,
So they
"Well,
just don't get flu shots because
no, they get them, but they go to
oh,
Publix to get them.
well, I mean,
Oh, they don't buy any. Yeah, they
they
don't
don't
buy any.
buy any.
They said they would just expire. They would sit there in our
Oh
refrigerator,
wow.
expire, and lose all this money on them. So I was like, well, I guess I'll have to go somewhere. I did get a tetanus shot. For what that's worth.
Why? Did you step on a nail?
No, I just hadn't had. Have we talked about my doctor? Look,
I'm very confused.
my
Yeah,
doctor.
your doctor is the one who tells you not to eat meat, right?
Look, if the doctor is listening, I won't say her name, but if she's listening, she wants you to know I appreciate you. This is not an attack. But my doctor has very idiosyncratic ways of looking at nutrition and health. So the first time I went to her, I was like, the first time I went to her, she, they do the blood test, they, get your finger in it. Well, actually, I told this story that the first time I went, the nurse asked me if I smoked. And I was like, have I not told this story?
I don't know
The
that
nurse
you
asked me
told
if I
on
smoked.
pod.
And I said, nah, I mean, I smoke a cigar like once a year when Alabama beats Tennessee. And she was like, well, if you've ever, she was like, if you've ever smoked before, I have to put yes. And if I put yes, it could go back to your insurance company and it could lead to higher costs. So she's like, so I'm going to ask you again. Have you ever smoked? And I was like, nope, never smoked a day in my life. And she's like, thank you. And she puts it down. And I was like, okay, this is already interesting. But anyways, so my doctor comes in and she's going through like the blood test, whatever. She's like, oh, you're, I don't know. What is it?
Blood
What is the
pressure?
diabetes test? Like
Glucose?
A1C
Oh, okay.
or
Yes.
whatever is really low. And I was like, oh, awesome. I can eat more candy then. Make a joke. And she's like, actually, yeah, sugar has nothing to do with diabetes. And I was like, she's like, yeah, it's common myth. Like carbohydrates, nothing to do with diabetes. It's all animal fat. And I was like,
no, she didn't.
really? And she's like, oh, yeah. I was like, oh yeah, it's like animal fat. And well, it turns out she's like basically a vegan, right? I mean, she is a vegan. And so she's all about veganism, and she believes that eating meat is the cause of everything that's wrong with you. And it's not just, I mean, she literally today she had written on the whiteboard. I sent this to some people. She had not written it. I mean, I don't know when she wrote it. She didn't write it for me, but on the whiteboard was written all this stuff about diabetes. And it was like, not sugar, not carbohydrates, high foods that are high in saturated fat. And then she listed them. And it was all the meats, including fish, chicken, turkey. I'm sorry. Chicken and
Those are the
turkey are
lean.
not
Those are the
high
lean meats.
in saturated fat. They're just not. Like, there's
No,
not
no,
a
they're
world
not.
in which eating a baked potato is better for you
No, it's
than
not.
having a boiled chicken.
It can't possibly be right.
It can't possibly
She's
be
not
right.
gonna like my freezer with a half cow in it right
Yeah,
now.
and she's like, so basically her thing is like, no meat at all, no dairy at all. It has to be, and it's not for some sort of like ethical reason. It's just, this is what you.
That's what's bad.
If we just stopped eating fish.
Aren't there documentaries about people who like do this and only eat berries and die at like 25?
Well, she has a whole list of books and documentaries she wants you to watch that are all about why you shouldn't eat meat at all. And I'm just always like, I mean, my position is,
Yeah, what do you say? Because you eat
I'm
you
always
eat
like,
meat.
okay. I'm always like, I get what you're saying, but not really me. Like, I am going to continue to eat. So maybe we could work. And she's always like, well, I'd rather you read this book and learn why you shouldn't eat meat, but I'll put you on a statin instead. I'm like, okay, like whatever. But I don't know. It's just like,
That's bizarre. I remember this now because when I asked you if you had a doctor, because I was looking for a doctor, you told me about her, and I was like, I don't know that we'd get along.
and the other thing, like, the physical is so basic. Like, she basically listens to my heart and listens to my breathing, and we're good. And I'm kind of like, I don't know. I feel
Maybe
like
listen to some
physicals are a
more
little bit
things.
more.
Maybe make sure my stomach and intestines are in the right place.
Well, she kind of like, she kind of does that a little bit, but not much. She's just like, is everything working all right? I'm like, yeah, everything's good. She's like,
But don't take my word for it. You're the doctor.
yeah. I don't know. Like I said, she's very nice. She's an Alabama fan. It's important to me. And when I got COVID, she just gave me whatever drugs I wanted. Didn't have to come in and see her.
Well, that's nice.
She
She probably didn't want to get COVID.
She probably didn't. But like, it's always an adventure going down there. But I did get my tetanus shot because she thought I should get a tetanus shot because I hadn't had one in a while. So now I have a tetanus shot. So if I
That
get
actually
tetanus,
is
I'll get
good
it.
because Mr. Alice was
You
at
get
his
tetanus?
checkup. No, well, he was at the doctor, and the doctor was like, "You are due for a tetanus shot. You should get it." And he's like, "I'll deal with it later." He should have gotten it there. I don't know why he didn't. He's like, "I'll get it later." So he didn't. And this was like a week later. He's at home with the kids because I'm traveling. That's what it was. Because I get this like kind of cryptic text. I'm on the airplane and he's like, "What time do you get in again?" I tell him the time. I'm like, I get it. Being alone with the 4 kids is a lot. And I was like, "Yeah, I'll be home in like 3 hours." And he's like, "Okay." And then a couple hours later, he's like, "Are you almost home?" I'm like, I'm like an hour away. It's okay. When you get here, I'm going to go to like dock in a box. I was like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to go get a tetanus shot." And I'm like right now on the weekend after I just got back. And I was like, "What happened?" He's like, "Nothing. Don't worry about it." So I get home and I was like, "What happened?" And he was like, he stepped on a nail.
There you go.
There you go. Because he was like chasing the kids, stepped on a nail, and then he was like, and then I couldn't get it out of my head. I was like, I should have gotten that tetanus shot last week.
Nobody wants to
So
lockjaw.
there you go. And I was like, "Is it a rusty nail?" He goes, "I don't know." I mean, it doesn't really matter at that
It
point.
doesn't matter.
So
Yeah.
then he went and like waited at a dock in the box to get a tetanus shot. So good thing you got it is basically what I'm saying.
Well, like I got the last tetanus shot I got back in 2013 when I did the big round the world trip.
Yes.
And like,
Is it every
was
10
funny.
years you're supposed to get it? Something like that.
Yeah, it is. And so I was due one, which, I got bit by that dog like 6 years later. And so I didn't worry about tetanus because I was
You were covered.
vaccinated. But it's funny, you think about money and healthcare. When I was going on that trip, we're going to Southeast Asia, we're going to Singapore, we're going to Vietnam, we're going to Cambodia, we're going to Thailand, we're going to China. And the doctor's like, well, there's this disease that's in those areas. And if you get it, you'll die. But we have a vaccine for it. But it's $800. And I was like, I'll take my chances.
I thought you were gonna be like, I guess I'll get paid $800.
Nope. No, I was like, no, I'm gonna roll the dice on this one. Hopefully I won't be bit by that mosquito, right? But it is just kind of
kind of crazy.
Yeah. I got vaccinated for all sorts of stuff when I went over there, though.
I bet.
That's when I did the malaria. I told the malaria story before.
The malaria
That's when I got the malaria drugs.
Malaria drugs are wild.
Yeah.
I've taken them twice, and both times. Technicolor, man. World in Technicolor. So I feel like I still have dreams remembering what it was like.
See, I wanted those dreams. I didn't get them. All I got was the emotion. All I got was the crying.
I can describe them in detail to you because they are vivid, man.
Yeah.
Anyways, but
my speaks dreams. My little boy yesterday, he woke up and he was like, I had the best dream last night. And I was like, oh, what made your dream so great? And he goes, well, Nyla was in it. Nyla's the name of my dog.
Oh,
and I was like, oh God.
No.
Oh God.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
So
Kids, they kill you.
They really do. They really do kill you.
But anyways, so Sophie, she says that lockjaw scared her so bad.
That was like quicksand.
It was tetanus. I don't know what it was about tetanus.
I don't even exactly know what lockjaw was, but I was like, I'm going to be stuck in quicksand and my jaw's going to be stuck open, and that's going to be how I die.
Like if you stepped on a nail, like you're going to get tetanus.
And it was immediate. Immediate, you were going to get it and then sink into a
And honestly, I don't even know. Like I don't know anything about tetanus. I got the vaccine. Like, do you die if you get it? I mean, is it just like,
or is it just like really uncomfortable?
Mind, tetanus and rabies were like right next to each other.
Right.
Like,
but rabies, you die.
If you got, but when growing up, I thought if you got either one of those diseases, you died.
Agreed. And
I have no idea if that's true or not. Like if you get tetanus,
either.
I don't know if you die or not. And they're both similar in that if you step on a nail, you can still get the vaccine and you're fine. Just like if you're bit by a rabid dog, you can still get the vaccine and you're fine. But at some point, I guess you can't because then you have it.
Once it takes effect.
Die then? I mean,
yeah, I guess so. I guess you do.
Anyway.
Man, that's crazy. Yeah. There's a story I was going to tell, but I forget now. I don't know.
There you go.
Baby Brittany, she's not a baby anymore, says the darndest things. So she was saying something and I just,
I used to write them down whenever.
I know. That's why I have to tell them on these things, because this is going to be my like living journal of these sorts of stories, because I will forget everything that they say. But it is very, very
I was thinking
sweet.
20 years and we're still doing this. We're going to look back on these videos when we're all sexy and young.
No, we'll be like, happened? In fact, we weren't really tired back then. We look way better now after having slept. Yeah, I've been woken up by some variation of kids at 4 a.m. for the last 4 days. Once you start sleeping again after having a baby, and then you get woken up.
It's the worst.
It's the worst. It's like you can't do it again.
I can't remember what we're calling my newest daughter. What are we calling her? Brallis?
Brallis, yes.
Brallis has been very difficult lately when it comes to sleeping.
I heard, because I got to have lunch with Mrs. Brett today.
That's right. And it's rough. I need my beauty sleep.
Well, so I think she's going through what Alice's son is going through, which is immense teething. Did I tell you I took him to two emergency doctors?
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, because I was like, surely something is wrong, because this is like not normal. Screaming his face off. I was about to get on an airplane, so I was like, I have to take him to the doctor. Like something is horribly wrong with him. He's fine. He's growing 8 teeth at one time. Literal 8 teeth are erupting at the same time.
Oh, God.
He has what is supposedly common eruption cysts, which is exactly what it sounds like. Fluid-filled balls in your mouth. Oh, God, but his were so big, it was like a balloon. He couldn't close his mouth. So he had like a blister poking out of his teeth, his gums, and they were so big he could not close his mouth. And of course that hurts. And we went to the pediatric dentist and they were like, yeah, totally normal. And I was like, this is normal? This? And they're like, actually, I was like, there's no infection? And they're like, no, like this is normal. I was like, okay. I mean,
Are
like,
they still like drain them or?
no, because I think that causes an infection or so
Okay.
no like Tylenol, Motrin, nothing worked. I mean, this kid had all the painkillers and it was still like he screamed like a banshee for hours at
Well,
a
you
time.
would
This is
too.
yeah. So I'm thinking maybe Browlis has the same thing because
Mm.
like and then I looked in his mouth and it looked like a war zone because then all the eruption cysts popped at the same time
Oh
and it was
God.
just like a bloody mess in there. It was so gross.
It's
Anyway, so that's yeah, it was
funny
horrible.
how many of our shows just devolve into like bodily fluid
Because
horror.
this is our stage of life.
It is.
What
It's
can I
true.
say? Okay, so let's talk about some happy things. It's the holiday season.
It is.
I have a girls' Christmas pajama party night that I'm going
Oh
to. Very
wow.
excited.
That's awesome. We put
I'm
up the tree. We got our tree yesterday. Kids
awesome.
were putting lights
Did
on
you
tonight.
you so you're a this is a good question. In a perfect world, I would love a real tree, but the reality of where my life is I do fake trees for the
I
ease
grew
of it.
up doing fake trees.
And I know you love I do
So
too.
now I get real
Just
trees.
I just can't. I that just there's too much going on. I don't know
Yeah.
what we're gonna do this year because our son is so mobile. Brittany was amazing. She didn't try to pull down ornaments. She didn't try to mess
Mhm.
with the lights. She was just like, respect. I like this tree. And she left it alone. I can already tell that our son is going to like wreak havoc as soon as we put a tree up. So I'm kind of delaying it.
Yeah. We talked about that a little bit with Brallis, but
Hmm.
we'll just grab her when she gets close. I don't know.
I
It's
don't know, man.
yeah, I love the real tree. I like the real tree.
I love the real tree. I think when I don't have small children in my like that I have to take care of all the time, that will absolutely be the thing I go back to because we had real
Mhm.
trees before we had kids.
It's just fun, you know.
It's
You go
so it
down, you get the
smells great.
tree. It
It's
smells great.
wonderful.
You put it up. Kids love it. You know.
We're actually gonna go to a Christmas tree farm this weekend.
Now I'll say this: when we take the easy way out, we go to Home Depot,
I don't
right?
think that's easy because have you tried to cut down a tree? It's hard. It's like real hard.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The Home Depot, you don't have to cut them down. They just like come to you. If
They
you go to a
are.
tree farm, you got to calm down. So we
Costco
went
has
the
trees this year.
first.
Did you see?
Do they really?
That's new.
Oh
I mean,
wow,
it's
I
like
didn't
the
know that.
exact same. It's like an 8 foot. There's no variety, but
Hmm.
I mean, way to go, Costco.
The first year we lived here, we went to a Christmas tree farm. It was actually the same.
That's the
One
one
of
we're
the
going to this weekend.
okay, there you
It's
go.
like it's like an event, right? Like you can go
Right,
cut
you
down your
go
Christmas
and
tree,
you
but
cut
you
the
like
tree
see
down.
Santa and do a little sleigh ride.
It's like a Hallmark movie, basically.
It really is.
I watched a Hallmark movie last night. It's called The Christmas Cup. It's a new Hallmark
Sounds great.
movie.
I'm probably gonna go watch one after this because 'tis the season, man.
You
I'm
know,
so
Christmas
excited.
Cup. It was fine. It was stupid, but it was like
But I like the stupid
I like the
ones.
stupid ones too.
I
It
really do.
it was good. I mean, I actually enjoyed it. It wasn't as dumb. I talked about this one on Twitter a little bit, and I want to keep you on that, but I do want to talk about this movie. It's called Finding Santa, and it was so stupid. It was so dumb. It was like it just didn't make any
Check the
sense.
North Pole.
So basically, town that loves Christmas, right? So I have a bingo card that I do. I've shared it with Alice before, but I have a bingo
It's a
card,
good one.
and basically I put a whole bunch of things. It randomizes it. You know, you don't always get the same ones, but it's all the sort of beats of the Hallmark Christmas movies. And so one of them is town that loves Christmas. So we start in a town that loves Christmas. And one of them is putting on or saving a Christmas event. They're having their famous parade. And this year, their famous parade is going to be featured on a national television broadcast. It's going to bring all this tourism to the town and save it. But and because they're a town that loves Christmas, they also just so happen to have one of the world's greatest Santas, who not only is a great Santa, but has started a Santa school in the town. So he runs the Santa school. So he's going to be the Santa,
This
obviously.
actually sounds like a great movie.
But in the opening act, he slips and falls and breaks his arm. So he can't do the Santa thing, right? So, but all of his Santas who graduated from Santa school, they're already booked other places, obviously, because it's Christmas. And so our heroine is trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to find a Santa this late in the season? And they're like, well, there is one Santa. And, Santa's like, no, Mrs. Claus, not him. And Mrs. Claus is like, yes, Santa. I can't remember Santa's actual name. It's our son, Ben. So Ben had gone to Santa school and had been like the greatest student to ever go through Santa school. Now, look, if you're thinking the same thing I am, which is, what exactly does Santa school entail? Is it like a
What does it
university?
entail?
Does
Eating
it have
cookies?
multiple
Drinking
classes?
milk?
Is it like years long training? Is it like a few hours? But anyways, he had been the greatest student to ever come through Santa school. But after he graduated, he put down the beard and left and went to Boston. Right? He abandoned Santa-ing and went to Boston. So of course, our heroine, who needs a Santa, she goes off to Boston to find him. Well, it turns out he's a writer in Boston. And so she goes to this deli and she's like, your dad broke his arm and we need a Santa and you're the only one. He's like, I can't do it. I have renounced Santa-ing forever. And the thing is, he's like, I have to write. I have to focus on my writing. Like, I can't do Santa-ing.
Santa works like 1 month a year.
Exactly. But anyways, but then he's like, I'm always here in between rides. And she's like, what do you mean rides? Well, it turns out he's an Uber driver. And he goes to this cafe and he like writes until he gets a ride share request. And he has to go jump in his car and drive off. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That's like the worst possible way to write. We're getting interrupted by Ubers. Anyways, so she eventually gets him to go back. He goes back to Santa school and sort of remembers all the things. Anyways, obviously, eventually he decides. And the thing is, it's never revealed. It's not like what tragedy or horrific event occurred that led him to where he couldn't even be Santa for 10 minutes in the parade. Like, that would be too much for him. But he eventually overcomes that. And he becomes Santa. And of course, he moves back to run the Santa school and realizes he can run the Santa school and write at the same time. And so they end up living there happily ever after.
Wow. Now I've just looked up best Christmas movies of 2025, and I'm basically going to work my way through them like tonight.
Is the Christmas Cup on there?
I don't see it yet. Must be near the bottom.
The Christmas Cup, by the way, was one of those. I'll say this and then we can go ahead and sign off. But one of my squares on bingo is like a job that must begin
On Christmas.
So this woman, so the Christmas Cup, it's like these two towns, they compete and they have teams. And so she's the captain of one of these teams. And her new job is supposed to start on like January 2nd. But that's fine because she can captain the team, right? Because the competition occurs on Christmas Day. Well, then, of course, an hour and 15 minutes into the movie, she gets a call. And the boss is like, well, I know your job starts on January 2nd, but we need you here on Christmas Day to go ahead and like fill out the paperwork and stuff and get the training you need to start on January 2nd. And it's like, this is the stupidest. This happens in all these Hallmark movies. It is utterly ridiculous to think.
Everyone else shuts down at Christmas.
Right. But you've got to be there to start your job literally on Christmas Day. That's the day. You got to be there. Just wild. Anyways.
This is not a definitive list. I literally just Googled. This is the first list that came up. So
see if I can find the Christmas Cup. Oh.
Sorry, it broke it out. It's good housekeeping, but it was the first one that came up on Google. But I'm going to make my way through it.
Oh, there it is. Christmas Cup. Staff Sergeant Kelly Brandt. See, it's funny because obviously the movie's made in Canada. It's very Canadian. It's like the most Canadian movie ever, but they're all Americans. And so she's a Marine, and it's just so funny. It's just great.
Well, I can't wait. So this has been fun, but I'm gonna go watch some Christmas movies.
This has been fun. This has been great. Thank you to everyone for joining us for this non-true crime episode We always enjoy talking to you guys about all this stuff. I hope you enjoyed it too. I'm not going to go through all the stuff. You know where to find us. If you're listening to this, pretty sure you already know who we are and where to find us. So I'll just go ahead and sign off. But until we meet again, she's Alice.
And he's Brett.
And nothing good happens after dark. I like it. I think it's a good way to end it.
Too.
Okay.
I like it too.
Okay. Oh yeah, the Jonas Brothers have a Christmas movie. That's right.
I know. I saw that. I'm probably gonna watch that first.
Yeah. I'm stopping the recording.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
This was kind of a long after dark.
We talk a lot. I don't know if you know this. And also, this is what happens when we have a regular length legal briefs.
True.
Okay, I'm just gonna call it the date in After Dark.
Did you? I thought you talked about it at the end of legal briefs.
Wait, what?
I think the date was the end of legal briefs.
No. I'm putting December 2nd, 20.
Oh! I thought you were talking about dates.
No. Sorry,
I put
meant
football.
the date, not the date.
Okay. That sounds good. The date.
The date.
Great story.
I still rhythm about that one.
All right. I don't know. Are we recording again this week or what?
We can, yeah.
Okay. Maybe Thursday? Maybe Thursday?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Thursday night?
I don't really have any plans. Oh, okay. So the word I was gonna this is not recording, so it's fine. I was gonna say, welcome back to the Prosecutors Legal Briefs. I'm your host, Alice, and this is Maya Pizza Ghost.
I knew it was gonna be something Italian.
Very, very offensive, but
it's fine.
It's fine. That or to call you Mario, but
Mario to my Luigi. Yeah, there you go.
Anyways.
All right, guys. It's been awesome. I'll talk to y'all later. Go ahead and end the stream. Love you, made it.
Bye.
Bye. Okay.